Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this game review for Orphan Black Season 2, Episode 7, Knowledge of Causes and Secret Motions of Things. And this episode, just wow. Wow, that's all I can really say with this episode. It was absolutely amazing. I love this episode. There were so many great scenes. And there are a couple key reasons why I love this episode. I mean, especially the ending. Just, wow, shit went down in the ending. That's all I can say. One of the reasons why I love this episode was everything connected in this episode. Everything connected. Yes, there were a couple, that we still had the individual plots, but pretty much everything connected in this episode, which I really liked. And two, the other thing that I have, the other thing is that, the ending's gonna be great. And also, there was no Helena in this episode, which I did not have a problem with, because I thought she didn't really need to be in this episode. But, let's just get to it, because I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. So, we first see Allison. Of course, with Allison, she's just become friends with Vic. But we don't really know. She doesn't really know if she can trust Vic all the way. She thinks she can. However, can she really? Because we know he had that conversation with Angie. Now, she is confessing her sins to Vic. First, she talks about her hatred of Ainsley and how she always hated her. And then she proceeds through sleeping with Ainsley's husband. And then she talks about how she killed Ainsley. And she feels really bad about that. So she rounds up the experience. She hands Vic a pair of gloves she's named for him, complete with missing fingers. And Vic tries not to freak out about how far the expected track this conversation has gone. Of course, Vic really just doesn't seem to care, as we know, because of what's actually going on. So, Sara and Mrs. S, meanwhile, are going through Ethan Duncan's hoarder house, because, they just got that big thing of information from Duncan, so they're trying to find out more about it. And Mrs. S is defending Duncan's scatterbrainness, and Sara suggests they divide and conquer because she has no particular loyalty to him. So then we go back to the rehab center, and Allison is looking for Vic. She doesn't know where Vic has gone. She just doesn't know where Vic is. So she realizes that he's left his new gloves behind, and then overhears him plotting with Angie. And Angie plots shall always come to naught. So this kind of thing makes Allison think, maybe I can't trust him after all. So then we see Cal, who he is just trying to hack into the dyad, but he notices that this little green light of his webcam is on. He realizes he's screwed, and they probably saw Kira in the RV behind him, so that's obviously not good. So Sara finds a dead mouse and knocks over a stack of boxes in a panic, which thankfully reveals a specific box that Duncan wants. These joyful dead mouse tidings are interrupted by Cal, who lets Sara know he's on the move again and is trying to throw Dyad off the trail. And Mrs. S wants to know who the mystery sitter is, but Sara does not tell him, so she has to check on Kira. And then we get a very sad scene. We see Cosima getting her first round of treatment, and Delphine is holding her hand, talking her through it, and she's wiping her tears away. It's really sad because, as we know, Cosima has that treatment. It could be helping her, but now we know we can't trust Leekie. It's probably not going to help her. We know that. We pretty much know that. It's probably not going to help her. So Allison manages to sneak out to an available phone at the rehab center to call Felix and get him to help resolve the whole Vic situation, because she pretty much thinks she can't trust Vic now. So Sara, meanwhile, goes to meet up with Cal, who wants to know about the aunties Kira has been telling about, and Sara brushes him off. Then we see Paul, who reports in to Leekie with the news that Helena went off with the Prolethean, and that Sara came up empty in her search for Duncan. Leekie, in the spirit of sharing, tells Paul that he is creating a synthetic womb. Paul's hobby is pottery and betrayal, obviously, and Leekie dismisses him and makes an urgent call to a Marion Bowles. So that's a pretty big thing. So Mrs. S and Duncan get ready to leave. He empties out the memento box from earlier to reveal a few floppy disks containing everything related to the clones, which is really important because it has everything related to the clones. Cosima but then we get a really big scene because Cosima overhears Delphine telling that student Scott, the guy that she met up in the last episode that we don't know if that we didn't know if she could trust. Delphine tells him not to tell her something, and immediately confronts her about it, and Delphine tries to tell her that Leekie set them up, that he pretended the successful STEM culture had been found by chance, when he used a tooth Kira lost in her accident, and Cosima argues that the whole thing should have been her choice, and Delphine says it's the only way forward, but that it's a finite source and they'll need more, and Cosima throws her out. So Cosima and Delphine are pretty much done at this point. I knew that their relationship was not going to last that much longer, and they're pretty much done now, so that's kind of sad. So then we're at Family Day at the rehab center, which is where a lot of the episode takes place, and Allison pulls Vic aside for a quick chat and brings him to Felix, who rightly points out that people go to rehab to improve themselves, not to get even sleazier. And Vic apologizes, but he won't back down until Felix offers the chance to meet with Sara, and it's just kind of like, ugh. Like, seriously, I like Vic's character this season. However, Vic wants to be forgiven for things, but he can't really be forgiven. He's done a few things that are kind of unforgivable. I don't really know, again, we can't really trust Vic. That's the thing. So, I mean, it's a pretty big thing, because, again, we don't know if we can really trust Vic, and I pretty much figured we can't trust Vic, so, I mean, that's a pretty big thing, as I said. So then we see, what do we see after? Okay. So, Vic apologizes, and then Leekie meets up with the informative Marion, who turns out to be played by Michelle Forbes. She was on Battlestar Galactica. And she and Leekie do some gross fox flirting, and then I didn't see Battlestar Galactica, by the way, but you guys probably recognize her from Battlestar Galactica. So she and Leekie are doing some gross fox flirting, and then he informs her that Ethan Duncan is alive, and Sara found him, and they discuss what Rachel will do when she finds out the truth, and that Admiral Kane points out that she keeps having to talk to Leekie about Sara, and then we need to look at that. So Leekie is very surprised about this. He's panicking here. So Cal wants Sara and Kira to run away with him to some place. I don't know how to pronounce that name. But Sara tells him she can't abandon the other people involved in her dyad issues, and she's interrupted in her flirting with him by a call on her clone phone. And the guy that called, and Felix calls her. He wants her to come help him and Allison out with the Vic situation. Sara agrees. Allison's busy setting up the name tag she has designed for Family Day. And Donnie is hilariously bare of any pizzazz next to all the others, because he still has no idea what's going on. I mean, Donnie just, you gotta love Donnie, because he has no idea what's going on. So Vic adorably and tragically tries to look like he's reading a book, sitting in urbane yet casual fashion for Sara's arrival, and she's not exactly into this. She wants to make amends, but isn't satisfied by her immediate acceptance of his apology, and attempts to brush him off. So Allison greets her kids, pretends Donnie is not there, and upstairs, Vic and Sara are getting into a bit of a fight. Now, I actually really like this scene, because Vic is asking for forgiveness here. He wants Sara back and tries to tell Sara he's better for her. He apologized for the nail gun and the new guy. And then, basically, I was kind of happy with Vic. I'm like, wow, Vic is actually, turning around here. Sorry, my voice just cracked. I was like, wow, Vic is actually, turning around here. And, I mean, that's a pretty big thing. Because he turns around, he asks if they smell salt, and claps into Allison's craft table. And Felix proactively spiked Vic's tea, because that's clearly the solution. So, I mean, that's a pretty big thing. So, Mrs. S is not sitting idly by during all this. She goes to talk to Leekie for Duncan's research. He wants to meet with Duncan himself to synthesize the research, and the research guys. And Ethan Duncan wrote his initials, and Susan Duncan's initials in hearts all over his research. And that's how they're going to know it's him. So, Mrs. S wants Leekie to promise to leave Kira alone, but rather not Sara. She doesn't want him to leave Sara alone. So at the rehab center, Felix points out that Vic looks like he's being molested to elves. And I mean, this whole rehab center scene is probably the funniest scene we've had on the show. It's just so funny, And Vic just loses everything. Let's think about Vic. He's lost a finger, he's gotten a nail gun shot through his hand, and now he's unconscious and covered in glitter. I mean, seriously, Vic is just like the most unfortunate character on the show always. So Sara and Mrs. S have a quick check-in about whether Leekie or Rachel will go down because of Ethan Duncan's revelations, which is interrupted when someone knocks on the door looking for Allison. And Sara strengthens her back, claps a hand on her forehead to cover her lack of bangs, and answers the door. Now Sara has to pretend to be Allison, and Allison unfortunately agreed to volunteer. So now Allison has to leave the room, and Sara grabs a helpfully adjacent headband and heads off to Family Day. So of course we know that Sara is horrible at impersonating Allison. She's not good at it at all. So she narrowly misses Allison on the way out, who is checking on Felix, and it turns out Felix's big plan to make Vic miss his meeting with Angie will be problematic once the family tours start. So Sara's Allison goes to the big meeting room with her punk rock clothes and extensive eye makeup, and she looks basically nothing like Allison, except for how her face is identical. She sits down in the back to avoid Donnie, only to immediately run to Allison's theater friend Sara, and then gets called on to give a speech. So she has no idea how to talk to a rehab center, and I always love it when Sara has no idea what she's doing. It's always really funny. So Angie sneaks in and steals a helpfully gender-neutral Pat name tag, and Felix is carrying Vic through the halls of the rehab center with a bonus knock on the head added in. Felix is in shockingly good shape for a raver kid, and Allison's worried about being late for role-playing, which means we are not in for the delightful scene of Donnie role-playing as Allison, which is kind of funny. He has the posture down perfectly. Sara's Allison tries to call him out for some monitor behavior. They're doing like a lot of role-playing here, and she sees the Allison Felix unconscious Vic parade head down the stairs. She finally makes her escape with a very Allison, not something that Allison would say, and You know, it's really, as I said, really funny. Probably the funniest scene of the entire show, because, again, Sara has no idea what she's doing. Donnie's pretending to be Allison, which is hilarious, and Allison and Felix are barely avoiding Angie, who calls Vic's phone just as they're darting away from her into an empty room. They send her off the trail with a misleading text, and then they meet up with Sara in Allison's room. Allison has only just started to chastise her for screwing up her family days when walks in Donnie. She tries to suggest he go ahead and just call Leekie already, when it becomes clear that Donnie had no idea there were clones. Allison in this episode just, wow, she really is Allison seriously is just, wow. So Angie goes to look for Vic. So yeah, Angie goes to look for Vic and finds him sprawled on the floor covered in glitter, and his reliability as a source may just be slightly compromised. So then we see Paul, who brings Rachel to meet with Ethan Duncan, who she even sheds a few tears. He explains what really happened to her mother, which is really sad because Rachel has no idea what happened. And you know what I really love about this scene? We finally get to see a vulnerable side of Rachel. Rachel's crying. She's not, like, strong about this. She is deeply upset by this, which I love. I love seeing this more deep, like, emotional side of Rachel. I always love when we see that because it really makes us care more for Rachel. So Donnie then explains to Allison that he was in a sociology experiment, and as Sara and Felix discreetly leave, Allison asks Donnie what he thought of the strange man who came and examined her at night, and tells him he ruined their family with his spying and lies. That moment was a long time coming, but it was still great to finally see Allison call him out for everything he's done, which was great, because, I mean, Allison hasn't really called him out for that, and, you know, finally in this episode, she's calling out Donnie for what he's done. So, for the rest of the episode, we get, like, a very dark side of Donnie. It's really cool, actually. So, Leekie and Rachel meet up, and it becomes clear that Rachel has outmaneuvered him with Admiral Kane. She's staying at the dyad, but gives him the opportunity to make a run for it, which is more than Marianne was going to allow. So, I mean, that was a really big scene. And then Cosima calls Sara, explains what she's learned about Kira in her cells, and Sara and Cal then get into a very loud argument about Sara taking Kira in to help Cosima which she overhears. While they're outside, she pulls out her own tooth to help. It's a big step for Sara that she's willing to put Kira at risk to help one of the other clones. I mean, that's a pretty big thing, because at this point, Sara has cared 100% about Kira. Finally, she's putting Kira at risk to help another clone. So, then Cal warns Sara that this whole thing is going to swallow them both, and then she and Kira head off together. So, I don't know where Cal's going, but he just ran away from them. I don't know if Cal's gone, but we'll have to see. I'm sure we'll see him again probably in the finale. So then we get the biggest scene of the episode. This scene was just like, wow, I was not expecting this. Leekie makes his escape, and he meets Donnie. Donnie has miraculously managed to track him down. Donnie gets in the car by threatening him with a gun, yells at him for ruining his marriage, and because, you know, Donnie has not ruined his marriage, it's been Leekie that's done it, and Leekie calls him a turnip and tells him he's a footnote in history, and of course, Donnie's holding a gun. Donnie tells him he won't participate anymore. Leekie thanks him somewhat sarcastically, and Donnie just yells, I quit. He accidentally kills Leekie. That's how the episode ended. So yes, Donnie killed Leekie. This can be a huge thing now, because now that Donnie's killed Leekie, he's basically, I don't know if he's made the situation worse or whatever, but we'll have to see what happens. What's going to happen now that Donnie killed Leekie? I'm sure Allison and Sara are going to find out. Is Cal gone forever? I don't really know. We'll have to see what happens there. Also, as far as the whole, Cosima thing, will Cosima find out the truth or what really happened with her, you know, we didn't get a lot of Cosima in this episode, but will Cosima find out the truth about what really happened with the whole, Kira thing? And also, will Sara really put Kira at risk? I mean, this is her daughter we're talking about here, so I don't really know what's going to happen there. And can they trust Vic? Like, at this point, Vic doesn't really know what's going on. All we know is that Angie's working with Vic. So, I mean, what does Angie really want Vic to help her with? We don't really know. We'll have to see. But this is my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, best episode of the season. I loved it. By the way, guys, I'm probably not going to watch it in the flesh anymore. It's just kind of keeping my time. I might watch this episode. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Rocky the musical. You know, that's going to be the next musical I review. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.